Reports are flooding in that a gargantuan mechanical beast has been rampaging through cities across the world. Witnesses have described it as an automaton with the head of a bull. We thought we had escaped the Minotaur's digital prison, but it looks like we only helped it escape. And then right here, you'll have to imagine the scream from CSI Miami because we cannot afford to license Won't Get Fooled Again. This is Vaguely Scientific. Is it me for a moment? I am Derek. How many friends have I really got? At least one of them is Jim, the scientist. Hi, Jim.
I'm friends to everybody, but also you.
Yay! And won't you come and join the party dressed to kill? Please welcome back Andy.
Oh, hi!
Oh, this is the show where listeners send in silly questions and we try to answer them as best we can while also subverting the eventual destruction of life on Earth as we know it, or at least finding a way to paint it as someone else's fault. As a distraction from that, perhaps Jim should tell us the fun science fact of the day.
Sure. This one actually came to us via Sydney's boss, who pointed out that a single honeybee makes about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. So if you don't spend the extra few minutes licking all the honey off of your spoon, then you are tossing the entire life's work of a single bee into the dishwasher.
Wow.
Wow.
So I'm going to guilt trip you to not waste your honey.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's so wild.
Put weight on that.
Yeah.
I don't know who's throwing honey in the dirty dishes, though. I mean, who does not lick? Who amongst us does not lick the spoon of something delicious?
Does not lick the spoon.
They need to do a poll on that, like who doesn't lick the spoon when they scoop peanut butter or icing or honey.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, let us know. I always do if I'm doing like peanut butter or cream cheese on a knife, I always lick it off because if you put that in the dishwasher, it doesn't clean it off.
Also true.
That would make a great t-shirt for you guys. Lick a spoon, save a honeybee.
Ah, yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
We were saying we need a bee-themed shirt.
We do need a bee-themed shirt. Oh, we can workshop that. There's something there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of other things that we need to workshop, before we get into our questions this week, there is some stuff we got wrong and actually bothered to look up later. In episode 192, liquid nitrogen would kill Mr. Fantastic. That's the title of the episode, not the thing we got wrong. Jim mentioned the idea that stretching your arm would make it thinner because you have a finite amount of mass, and said there was probably a formula for calculating how much thinner it would be. So I kind of figured that out. I had to start with the assumption that we're talking about a uniform object made of all the same material, which your arm isn't. But assuming it all stretches in proportion to the whole arm, this will still be close. So it's a good estimate. Mass depends on how much material there is, and for a rod or a cylinder, that means length times area of the cross-section. So for your arm, we'd have to use the average cross-section area. So this is all just very much a huge estimate, but bear with me. If you increase the length, you must reduce the cross-section so the total amount of material stays the same. Because thickness affects area in two directions, the width does not shrink at the same rate as the length grows. Instead, the width changes with the square root of the length, i.e. they are inversely proportionate.
Oh.
Doubling the length means the width becomes about 70% of what it was, whereas quadrupling the length would require the width to be cut in half, because the rod must lose much more thickness to offset the extra length while still containing the same total amount of material. So the formula to calculate what the new width would be for any given length would be take the original width and multiply it by the square root of the original length divided by the new length. So did anyone need to know that? No, but we brought it up and I was curious.
I think that's great because I know that we talked about the fact that it definitely isn't going to be something that's just a linear decrease. And so that just proves it.
Yeah. So I got to imagine your arm, even though it's made up of different materials, it's still going to be like pretty close to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now that I've talked about math for a while, we should probably talk about our first question. I think there will be less math in this, at least in the first question.
Sure.
I don't know about the second one, but okay. So question 1 this week is, if all animals were scaled to be the exact same weight, who would win in a fight?
Oh.
I want to know why all the animals are fighting.
It's the ultimate showdown of animal destiny.
I guess it's not so much of a fight as much as it is like the food chain at that point, you know?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So who would then become the dominant?
Yeah, I mean, you could right, you know, like in our species, the killer whale is one of the dominant species, at least in water.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
The apex predators, right?
Yeah. And then hippos, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to mess with a hippo.
Yeah, but then again, if you took a hippo and you actually made it 100 pounds, it wouldn't be very scary.
Well, that's true. I mean, if you decrease the weight of a hippo, you significantly nerf it, right?
Yeah.
But it still has the jaw strength.
Sure. But then if you put a hippo up against a 100-pound cockroach,
then I would leave.
Yeah. So doing these, like thinking about it, I feel like all of my land animals came down to like bugs and insects.
Yeah.
They'd be horrifying.
Mm-hmm. I was so interested in the fact, and this is something that I feel like, you know, we teach young kids all the time, is like, you know, ants can lift like 50 times their own body weight.
Yeah.
But they're not even the number one in the strength to weight ratio listing here. So the list I saw is number 1 was the dung beetle, which, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me when you really stop to think about it, because the dung beetle is going to be something that is moving objects much larger than itself pretty much all the time. But I don't think the dung beetle is going to be particularly aggressive. I don't know much about dung beetles, though, so everyone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that. But the one that I'm putting my money on, and I think would be a really cool thing to see fight, especially if it's a 100-pound one of these, is the rhinoceros beetle.
Yeah.
The rhinoceros beetle, it says, can lift. Yeah, it can lift 850 times its own weight. So
okay,
I'm putting my money, because the rhinoceros beetle not only is very strong in the weight to strength ratio, but also has some real big horns on it. It's like a triceratops for the insect kingdom.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, triceratops. Yeah, that tracks. I have one criteria I thought was interesting to explore, and then ultimately I have an answer that I feel like is going to make most people mad, so I'll save it for last. But I did think it was interesting.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Okay. Well, the first thing I wanted to say was insects being able to lift several times their own weight. That makes sense if we're all scaled to be the same weight and we are very small.
Mm-hmm.
But if you scale insects up, they are now too heavy to manage to support themselves under all the weight of their exoskeleton. So it really kind of depends on what scale we're going with. Meanwhile, if you scale a bear down to be the size of an ant, it can now no longer pump blood through its body.
See, I just assumed there was magic involved with like the scaling and the...
Well, I mean, we got to be vaguely scientific here.
Yeah, it's only vaguely scientific.
It's only vaguely scientific. But if it's magic, I mean, then there's just nothing to talk about. I don't know. So here's my answer that a bunch of people will be upset by, but I defend it as the actual correct answer. And I have somewhere to go with it that I think is interesting. And my answer is humans.
Yeah, see, I knew that's what you were going to say.
Boring.
And you're right,
I disagree,
but I'm mad
and
about it.
I disagree that it's boring. I do agree that people are going to be mad about it, but I'll explain why I don't think it's boring. And the main reason for that is humans have guns. Humans have technology. But here's why I think this is not boring. I think this question goes back to the time of Aristotle or Pliny the Elder, when they tried to categorize what makes animals strong, what makes animals impressive. And a lot of things they were talking about, there are massive animals that are very strong. There are animals with very sharp claws. And yet humans we're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. And yet we dominate the earth, right? So what is special about humans that allow us to do that? And it's our intelligence, I think. Now, some people might say humans using guns is cheating or something. And I would disagree with that, because why can't humans use the thing that makes them special? The ability to use technology. In the same way, there are other animals that can use tools. There are scorpions that have venom in their tails. So, like, why can scorpions use venom, but humans can't use their brains? So there's my argument.
Yeah, so in that argument, humans are already apex predators, because we're already that, in this world. So unless even if Tyrannosaurus Rex still walked the earth, we would still find ways to kill them, because we're humans and we're smart and we know how to hunt and trap.
Yeah, assuming we are on the level we are in real life.
Yeah, I defy a T-Rex to stand up to an Apache helicopter.
I don't think it wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, but a pteranodon, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference right there.
Yeah. So humans, yes, but take humans off the table. Imagine the humans are watching this all in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
There is where we come down to who's going to win.
Sure.
Without putting humans in there.
Well, before we move away from humans, I just want to put on the table human with a broadsword, sword fighting a human-sized Hercules beetle. Not Hercules beetle, what was it? The rhinoceros beetle.
Rhinoceros beetle.
I think that would be cool. Also, maybe a Hercules beetle. Those look pretty cool too. So
it would be cool to watch.
So not to be argumentative, but the phrasing of without taking humans into account, that's literally what I thought was interesting about this entire argument, is that why do we not include humans with other animals? Because it's a very natural tendency to not want to include humans, but I was looking at ways to phrase the question that kind of exclude technology and say, well, okay, what about only animals that can use their natural abilities? Well, that led me to what is actually the definition of natural in that case, because there is a debate to be had about, a lot of people say naturally is shorthand for without external tools or environmental modifications. So teeth, claws, and venom, all natural. Spears, fire, gun, unnatural. Yet there are several animals that use tools to hurt and kill other animals, not just humans.
What about the bombardier beetle?
Right. I think a good way of calculating this is to look at human intelligence based on age versus animals and creatures and their intelligence based on their age. Because most animals gain significantly more intelligence than humans before a human can even learn to do anything.
Right.
True.
By the time one of my kids is 100 pounds, say they're 12 years old. A 12-year-old doesn't carry so much intelligence with the ability to fight one of these creatures. So that might make a difference in intelligence and mass or weight versus these creatures.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because if you're talking about a 10-year-old human versus a 10-year-old tiger, tiger has a clear advantage there because the tiger is an adult.
Right.
But at the same time, if you're talking about a 40-year-old human versus a 40-year-old tiger, well, now the tiger is elderly.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I could beat a 40-year-old tiger necessarily.
Probably not. Maybe that was just the first animal.
Yeah,
that
but
popped
you'd
in
be
my
smart enough. You'd be smart enough to have guns, though. So you would.
That's true.
And that's kind of, so we're scaling them by weight, but we're not scaling them by, I guess, maturity or something like that. So that's another interesting way to explore it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bombardier beetle. I want to hear you talk more about that.
Yeah,
Jim.
talk about that.
Yeah, I think 100-pound bombardier beetle spraying several gallons of boiling water at something would be. I think that's a little bit overpowered, if you ask me.
Like I'm googling that while you're saying that. So like if you were to scale that up, that'd be like 100-pound bombardier beetle would be able to shoot this deathly liquid in like a 30-foot radius.
Yeah.
How big is its spray compared to its body? I never looked that up.
I've seen videos of it, and I don't think it's like tremendously far, but I mean, it's probably like 5 or 6 times its body length, which is fine if you're trying to keep someone away from you. That's good enough.
Okay.
Like you stand 100 feet away, you're going to be okay. But like, if you want to get into melee range, you might have a bit of a problem.
So things that immediately are I guess discredited or discounted based on this challenge.
Bunny
I think
rabbit.
Bunny rabbit. I don't know. Bunny rabbit's a pretty powerful hind claws. But,
That's true.
So the things that we immediately look at, what if a human fought this thing? Things like bears, things like gorillas, tiger is another one that we mentioned. Most of those animals, the danger is because of their weight and therefore their strength.
Right.
That's why I wouldn't want to fight an elephant, right? Because an elephant is huge. But if an elephant's my size, less of a threat. Whereas meanwhile, smaller animals that have more intricate defense mechanisms, like a lot of insects, and I was thinking of things that are venomous. So even the platypus, is a contender here.
Yeah, true. Yeah, now I'm starting to think that there are a lot of superpower-esque things that are not necessarily useful on the day-to-day, except for maybe hunting prey, that now become very useful because this animal is 500 times its original size.
Yeah.
Right.
Like praying mantis, I think, is a good one too.
Yeah, praying mantis I had on my list. One that I came down to, one of my kids actually brought it up, was the mantis shrimp.
Ooh.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they said, and you're like, well, it was my daughter. She's like, well, a mantis shrimp can punch at 50 miles per hour underwater. I'm like, yeah, if you scaled it up to 100 pounds, imagine the force of that punch.
Yeah, if everything else remains the same, it's a 50-pound, like a boxer punching you.
A literal punch of a cannonball.
Yeah. And the thing is that I was
armored
also
too.
thinking, isn't that the one where its punch also creates like a water cavitation where it creates an extremely high temperature?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and I think a sonic boom.
Yeah.
The
like,
cavitation bubble.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, how much more strength is that going to have if it has a claw that's like the size of my hand?
If a boxer can cause a sonic boom with his punch, that's a pretty powerful punch.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
just a regular superpower.
that's just Power Man.
Yeah.
So there's an animal that we talked about a long time on this show that I remembered existed a while back, and I want to pitch the boxer crab for a specific reason, and I want to know. So this is a tiny crab that lets sea anemones grow on its claws, and it will like use them as little boxing mitts. And I want to know, do those get bigger too?
Oh, interesting.
So like do symbiotic creatures get to scale up their partners?
You would assume so, because if all animals are that weight, that means that would mean he has these 100-pound things growing on his hands, and he probably couldn't handle it at that point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they no longer have that symbiotic relationship then.
Right.
Yeah, I was really interested in the idea of scaling insects up and scaling, much like scaling an elephant down takes away its strength because it's relative strength. scaling an ant up causes a lot of problems, like its ability to breathe and its ability to actually lift itself. And so that's fascinating. And I know, Jim, you said you assumed magic existed, but these are the things I like to overthink.
Yeah, but even with the ant, so you scale it up to 100 pounds, right?
Yeah.
But the ants, its shape, imagine how gigantic it would actually have to be 100 pounds because of the form of its exoskeleton. I feel like each of these creatures are going to be different sizes based on their weight also. Like you take a praying mantis is probably going to stand like 12 feet tall at 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think birds too. Birds' bones are hollow.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're still going to be bigger than an average human.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that because to me, I was like, okay, so we're normalizing their size, but we're not. We're normalizing their weight.
Right.
And so you're right. They could be, 100-pound rabbit could be a certain size, but 100-pound turkey vulture might be much bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then, so praying mantis, then you have obviously reach there.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's how I originally pitched this question to my kids was if all were the same size. But that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work as well that way. And I was like, well, what if you go by weight? And then we were like, oh.
Well, it makes sense because in competitive fighting, we have weight class. We don't have like height class or length of arm class.
Yeah.
And because that's really kind of determining quite a few things. It's determining your baseline strength as well as your baseline endurance most of the time. Obviously, those are things that you can work on with training and exercise, but like largely a person who is heavier is going to have an easier time standing when somebody tries to tackle them.
Yeah. I think it would be really interesting to even step away from the fighting aspect of this, and I just want to know how big certain animals would be if we standardize them all at 100 pounds.
I'm fascinated by that now.
Yeah, like I remember there's always those pictures that go around of like, here's how big all of these different Gundams are scaled next to each other, just height-wise. And it's like, it would be like that, but with a weird combination of animals.
Well, I want to know because like chitin that makes up a lot of insect exoskeletons, right? I want to know how heavy that is, like, as a material. That information must exist.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Interesting.
And then also, like, I'm thinking, imagine how big potentially, I'm not really sure about this sentence that's about to come out of my mouth, but to me, I would think that a jellyfish could get to be quite large, but on the other hand, it is mostly water, so maybe not. 100 pounds of water is not that much water. So,
right.
Oh, that's fair.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting. I do love the idea of a jellyfish that's the size of like a Ford Focus.
You gotta look up what the biggest jellyfish is now.
Actually, there are some really huge jellyfish out in the Pacific. I think there's a region near Japan where these jellyfish do get to be about the size of a Ford Focus.
That's awesome.
Because I remember seeing divers near them, and they're like 7 feet across.
See, I saw 7 feet across with tentacles reaching 120 feet in length.
120 feet?
That's what it says, lion mane's jellyfish.
Holy moly. That's too big.
That is too many feet.
That's far too many feet.
But how heavy is that jellyfish?
It didn't find that.
How would they even know?
2,200 pounds.
Wow.
Or 1,000 kilograms. The Guinness World Record estimates the heaviest can exceed 1 ton. Yeah, which is 2,200 pounds.
Well, that would be
that would be significantly smaller. Yeah.
That'd be like you could hit that with a softball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm reviewing these different animals we're talking about, like the dung beetle. The dung beetle can carry 1,141 times its weight.
Yeah.
But like you said, Derek, if you increase the size of these things to 100 pounds, things are becoming a lot heavier.
Right. Which, if magic is involved, you could say their strength goes up proportionally as well. But I almost think it's interesting to to explore both ways.
Right. But we're basing this on gravity, right? So
Right.
you got to think about gravity. I mean, that's like when you see giant creatures in movies, they always move really slow, which people are like, they wouldn't move that slow. But you're thinking, yeah, they kind of would because they have all that gravity pulling them down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I think it's kind of also interesting if bear turns to be the size of the bombardier beetle. Is going to be a different, I would say. I mean, I think we already kind of nailed it. I think insects have the advantage there because they have an exoskeleton and that inherently makes them stronger. Whereas if you take a fleshy animal and make it that size, it's going to be real squishy.
But I still give the honey badger a bite for its.
Well, if I recall correctly, the honey badger does not care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 He would eventually lose from death somehow, but he would put up a fight, and they would not be happy about it.
Yeah. Generally, when you die, you lose the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
with death.
in that situation, think of a cockroach. I did bring up the cockroach earlier.
Yeah.
Think of a cockroach. If you cut off a cockroach's head, it still lives because its brain is running down its backbone. So
is that true?
Yeah. If you that's what I was reading earlier about a cockroach.
Neat.
Yeah. So if you cut off its head, it's going to keep on living, but it's eventually going to die from not drinking water because it's going to be too stupid to think of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to imagine without its mouth parts, it probably can't eat.
Exactly.
It has no mouth, but it must eat.
There was that chicken that lived without a head for a long time. I think people kept it alive, though.
Yeah. Now that we brought it up, I think it's important to note that things that are more aggressive are going to be more likely to win. Right. So,
yeah.
You know, 100-pound bunny rabbit might have a pretty good kick, but it's a bunny rabbit, so it's going to probably just run away from anything that is perceived as a threat anyway.
Yeah, it's still herbivorous, right? So, the tiger still wants to eat it.
Yeah, and that's actually why. So, like when I jumped in right at the beginning with the dung beetle being at number 1 on top of the strength to weight ratio, and the rhinoceros beetle at number 2, I went straight to rhinoceros beetle because those are aggressive and they're pointy.
Aggressiveness definitely takes a factor here.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the praying mantis, then it's going to be pretty aggressive. So
yeah.
It's going to be aggressive with prey, but praying mantises are actually pretty friendly to animals that aren't like a threat to them. Like praying mantises will be curious about humans, but things that are their own size, like other mantises, and then of course their food, they're very aggressive toward. So it depends what their motive is, I guess.
True. Although I think if something punches it in the face, it's going to get kind of aggressive back at it.
Like a mantis shrimp.
Like a mantis
when it punches it,
probably
when it punches it with the power of 1,000 suns.
Yeah, if a mantis shrimp punches it, it's probably going to turn into powder.
I want to jump back to when I brought up the crab, because Andy made an excellent point that if all animals are already scaled this way, it drastically changes things. Whereas I was kind of approaching this whole thought experiment as like we are staging 1v1 title bouts. And that's significantly different than just every animal in the world is just suddenly the same weight.
Indeed.
But because the reason I thought of that is because I just thought mantis shrimp versus praying mantis is like definitely a headline match.
Yeah.
Right? Well, when you have a mantis shrimp that, again, the cavitation bubble for a split second is as hot as the surface of the sun.
Mm-hmm. I love the phrase cavitation bubble. It's very evocative. It's like you hear that and it's like, there's gravitas behind that phrase.
The gravitas of the cavitation bubble.
Yeah, so the mantis shrimp has gravitas on its side.
And the gorilla does not have gravity on its side anymore.
Oh.
Whoa.
What about the hamster?
You know, I have some things to say about hamsters.
I don't. I'm curious about this.
Well, that would be a segue to the second question.
Oh, okay. That makes much more sense.
Well, again, hamsters wouldn't be very good at this though, because they're not aggressive hardly at all.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
they'll bite you
Really not, yeah, they're a prey
on the
animal.
finger, but they're gonna be more of a dude. Are you gonna feed me yet or not?
That is what every hamster I've ever met has said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dude, where's my food?
dude, where's my food?
Where's your food, dude? Oh, wow. Is that worth making, that reference?
Everything's worth it.
Well, speaking of hamsters, we do have a second question this week, and I don't know if Andy did that on purpose, but I'm running with it here. Question 2 this week: how many average-sized hamsters running on wheels would it take to power the average American home?
I can't wait to hear Jim the Science
Too
Jim's
many
facts about this one and his calculations, because it's going to be good.
Oh, I did math.
It would be far too many, for start.
It would be far too many.
So actually, what's really neat is I found a couple articles about this. And
Okay.
on average, it seems to be somewhere north of about 20 million hamsters per household.
That's about what I got, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing I like most about this is the fact that is such a staggering number of hamsters that I can't even wrap my head around what you even do with them.
That's a lot more than what I was calculating.
Really?
Yeah. So I was calculating. I looked up what a standard average hamster would output in watts of power. And a standard hamster can output 0.5 watts of power while running on a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So if you take that, multiply it, you can get 1,200 hamster watts out of 2,400 hamsters.
Yeah.
Right? So you got 2,400 hamsters, but you'd have to have those hamsters running constantly. And typically, a hamster only runs for 4 hours a night. So assuming the hamsters are running for 4 hours a night, you'd have to have a schedule of hamsters set up to run in 6 separate shifts of hamsters for 4 hours every night. So now you have 6 shifts of 2,400 hamsters, which would put you at 14,400 hamsters. So if you have 14,400 hamsters running on these shifts, you can power your house.
So you have to keep in mind that each of those hamsters will require a lot of food.
Uh-huh.
How much food?
To generate that energy.
Here's the thing I didn't look up because I didn't think about it. Even though this was the thing I wrote down, like, oh yeah, they have to eat food, but I didn't actually think to look. How much food does a hamster eat in a day?
Well, probably more if you have them like running this much.
Yeah, if you're making them run nonstop or even for several hours on end.
Well, when you have to feed 14,000 hamsters, that's going to be a lot of food. That's like...
Well, let's not forget that hamsters are one of many small rodents that are cannibalistic. So you're also going to need to keep these hamsters specifically in enclosures to maintain your stock.
Right. But if they're cannibalistic and one dies, you can use it to help feed the other hamsters.
You can. And presuming this is a breeding population.
Right. They also reproduce themselves, which you have to be careful with, or you're going to end up, your 14,000 hamsters are going to end up at 20 million hamsters in the end quickly anyways.
So you could create a Soylent Green scenario of hamsters here, where all of the hamsters are just a self-sustaining ecosystem where they run on hamster wheels and then die and then feed their own colony and reproduce. And that's perpetual motion. We solved it.
Yeah. So imagine that you have 14,000 hamsters, though. How much space you would require to hold the 14,000 hamsters. Like, you need a lot of floor space with cages stacked up. Running around. And then even more importantly, imagine how much heat would be generated from 14,000 hamsters.
Well, could we convert some of that to thermal energy?
There you go.
Oh.
And cut down on the number of hamster hours we need.
Would it make a lot more sense to take the hamsters and plug them into a hamster matrix and just do the matrix thing?
like we did with the cows?
Yeah, like we did with the cows.
Yeah, we could do that. most of the math that Andy was just talking about, that's pretty in line with some of the stuff I was coming. I didn't have the exact numbers, but so that 0.5, that was, it made sense when you said they'd have to be running constantly. So I estimated a bit lower than that. I estimated that the average home uses about, what's my number here? About 300,000 watt hours, because energy conversion and stuff. I don't want to go into all of the physics that I barely understood anyway. So I wanted to say, how many hamsters would you need is a slightly misleading question, because a hamster running on a wheel could, let's hypothetically say, generate 0.1 watt per hour. So that's a hamster hour. That's a hamster hour of power generation, or energy generation rather. So if we need 300,000 hamster hours, that is equivalent of either 300,000 hamsters running for 1 hour or one hamster running for 300,000 hours. So fewer hamsters could still get the job done at a less efficiency. But if you double the amount of hamsters, then all of the hamsters are doing less work.
I love that we're now using the word hamster power.
I'm keeping hamster power and hamster hours. This was my day, Andy. So that's, you all have to live with it.
Which is fun, because in researching this, so the horse treadmill was a real thing. They actually tried to use horses to generate energy for houses. And they did it because a horse can generate 746 watts of horsepower. So horsepower is basically the equivalent of 746 watts. So you'd only need roughly 2 horses working in shifts to power a house. But you also have to, again, expect those horses to be running constantly, like 12 hours of a horse, or 6 hours. That's a lot of horse energy for them to keep on walking. So I'd assume you do want more horses. But, 2 horsepower, you could power your home, technically.
Right. And I mean, we learned a long time ago that horsepower refers to the power produced by a draft horse, an average draft horse. So it makes sense, since we already do use horses to power vehicular transport, and then we convert that amount of power to how much energy a car uses. Yeah, if you have like a generator or something, it can be powered the same way.
So this is even better than the horse matrix. So for instance, currently we put VR headsets on cows to make them happier, right?
Right.
So you put a VR headset on a horse and make him think he's frolicking through the woods on a treadmill. He would just be happy all the time and frolicking.
Yeah.
On his treadmill.
Yeah.
On his treadmill. And less danger, too.
True.
I like the image of hamsters wearing little headsets, and they're like cyberpunk hamsters. And their power. It's the Matrix.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to go with, is the hamster matrix again.
Oh yeah, it's literally the Matrix, but we've replaced all humans with hamsters. Like that plot, we're using them to power we are the machines in this scenario.
That would need a lot of hamsters. We've discussed before how the original intent of the Matrix, it was that human brains were used for their processing power, and how when they get rid of that explanation and just say humans used as batteries, humans do not make good batteries because of how many you need. And
there were a lot of humans, though.
So what can we do with these hamsters? So we were onto something, I think, when you brought up the amount of heat they generate, because now we're not just cranking a generator with the hamster wheels. We're also using thermal energy. Like, how else can we harness the power of these hamsters?
So I brought that up because I was thinking of how much thermal energy I'm generating from my hamsters. But then I'm realizing that all my energy that my hamsters are giving me is going towards my commercial air conditioner to keep the enclosure area cold to a safe temperature for them.
Yeah, because so it's not perpetual motion, it's all waste.
I don't know how you would be able to harness that or make it work unless you're already in a cool area.
Yeah.
But down here in Florida, you'd be screwed.
Yeah. Speaking of wasted energy, there's also waste. There's another fuel source you could burn is
Hamster
the
poop?
hamster waste. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could power your HVAC, your hamster vac system. Hamster.
That old hamster vac.
The old hamster vac. That's how you catch the hamsters, with the hamster vac.
Yeah.
It vacuums up all the hamsters. And it's powered by gerbils. And this was their master plan all along.
The irony.
The irony.
I'm looking up how much food the hamsters eat.
Oh, that's a good...
An active
yeah.
hamster eats about 12 grams of food a day. So you
12
calculate
grams.
12 grams by 14,400 hamsters, and you got 172,000 grams, or 380 pounds of hamster chow per day. So you're hauling in pallet loads of grain every day to feed your hamsters.
So how much does that cost? How much does it cost to feed these 14,000 hamsters?
Right, but then you have to think that if you're feeding that much to the 14,000 hamsters, 380 pounds, that means you're also outputting 380 pounds, at least close to 380 pounds of waste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
which you can then burn
or sell
as fuel.
Yeah, or sell
it as manure.
Yeah.
This is a functional economy we're building, I think. This is civilization could run on this.
I think it's more of a dysfunctional economy, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't work at all, but I'm playing along.
It kind of reminds me of a long time ago. I remember there being an XKCD What If about a mole of moles. And the number a mole is like 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd.
Yeah.
So it's like that many moles. And it would be like the size of the moon, and then it would kill all of the things inside of it, because that would be a lot of moles crushing down on the inside of it. But that's what this makes me think of. It's like, oh yeah, we need like 600 quadrillion hamsters to power the entire world, or something ridiculous like that.
I like it. The hamsters are so cute and friendly.
I'm thinking this is maybe not global. I don't think we should take this global. Maybe like a small commune, could be hamster run. I don't know.
This brings me to a fun story. When I lived in Pennsylvania, I had a car that I got off work and I drove home. And on the way home, I keep hearing like a weird sound coming from my engine, and as I do, I just can proceed to get the whole way home before checking it, because that's what we do. But I get home and I open my hood, and there under my hood is a freaking groundhog. It's sitting there on the hood, on the top of my engine, huffing and puffing like it's so high. I'm like, oh my gosh, how long have you? Obviously, I've been under there since work in my 20-mile drive. I'm like,
oh no.
And I'm like, what are you gonna do here? I'm just standing. We're looking at each other, and for a while, I'm like, what are you gonna do? I'm talking to the thing. After like a minute, it moves and it jumps out of my car and runs off. I'm like, oh, there goes my engine. So I looked at it as that was the hamster running on the wheel inside of my car, powering my engine.
We one time, a friend of mine who is a mechanic was working on a car, and we couldn't get it to start, and we opened the hood, and there is a kitten sleeping in the point, and I think the battery had been disconnected or something. So the kitten was fine, but when we opened the hood, he looked at the kitten sleeping there, and it was just perfect timing. He said, "Well, there's your problem right there." And I remember that. That's what that story made me think of.
Your cat powers died.
Cat power died. Yeah, not enough purs.
Yeah.
That engine
miles
was not
per
purring.
hour.
The engine was not purring.
It wasn't humming like a kitten.
It was not.
Another thing that I think is really fun about this question is just the concept of where you would get all of these hamsters. And I mean, obviously it's easy to breed hamsters, but in the numbers that we're talking about here, I have a hard time believing that it would be easy to obtain this many hamsters. And
right.
And even if you did, I think there would be a lot of questions being asked. It's not like just buying, 100,000 Pop-Tarts, which would, I assume, also raise a lot of questions.
I'd be questioning that.
Yeah, but it's like, what are you doing with all these animals? Are you going to turn them into soup? Are you going to release them into the wild and cause a giant ecological disaster when they get invasive into places? But like, people are going to want to know why, and then also they're probably going to try to stop you too.
I mean, you're not wrong for a very specific reason. First of all, I don't know where you'd have to outsource and get these hamsters from multiple places, because what distributor is going to be carrying this many hamsters on hand? And then I do not know the specifics about hamsters, but there are animal hoarding laws where, depending on the size of your property and the amount of like people that live in your house, you cannot have more than a certain number of pets. And then like you have to qualify to be a farmstead in order to keep certain livestock animals. So like you can't have too many dogs. And it is partly for the fact that people running puppy mills are, often less than ethical. But there's also the animal cruelty of, like, if you have all of these animals and you cannot pay to feed them, we're going to be questioning what's happening to these animals. People are going to try to stop you, is my point.
Yeah.
But if you take that exact question and you flip-flop it and say that the assumption is that everybody has 14,400 hamsters living in their homes to power it, right?
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, because that's how the world operates.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. So in my town, there's roughly 17,000 houses like being occupied by families. So you take your 17,000 houses with your 14,400 hamsters, that's 244, almost 245 million hamsters that you'd have to have. When you look at it that way, it doesn't seem that illogical. It's only 245 million hamsters.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Now it is the average American home.
I just think the idea of like you building a structure to house these hamsters and let them do their electrical thing, and then having your next door neighbor be like, what is happening over there? Not even trying to stop you. They just look over there and be like, what are you doing?
I want to see the rig that is built around your house to facilitate this power source you have. Like, I'm picturing those colored hamster tubes being built on the exterior of your house.
Tube City.
Running to all of the power wheels. Yeah. And like, right, like most people who have like an air conditioner system, they'd have the air conditioning unit outside of their house, and they'd have maybe a gas line with a gas meter on the outside of the house. And I'm thinking that's all this stuff would have to be somewhere, either in your basement or your attic or on the outside of your house. And like, what's the house going to look like? And somebody please draw that and send it to me.
Yeah, I do really want to see what that might end up looking like.
All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in. Let us know what animal is hiding in the hood of your car. If you have thoughts on that or anything else that we talked about or anything we actually talked about this episode, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, or you can comment on our blog, or you can like us on Facebook, or you can comment on the YouTube videos that come out concurrently with the release of these episodes. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listener. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, you can email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out. And so does telling your friends.
Tell your friends, and while you're at it, ask them if they're interested in switching to hamster power.
I hope they say no. Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. I mean, it's not hamster power, but you could get some really nice warm shirts there that'll keep you toasty.
We could make a hamster power shirt.
That's true. We could. That's 2 shirts now we got to work on.
So thank you to Andy for being our guest this week.
Hey!
Yay! For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
And I'm awesome.
Yeah!
It's true.
The song is over. It's all behind me.
Toodaloo, everyone.
Bye. I love your introductions, Derek.
Thank you.
Come in at an auspicious moment in our story arc.
That's true. We had a whole thing happen, but that's always the case in this show. So